today we have the brains of, I would say, a significant portion of the brains behind the DLC, right? Or how would you rate your brain involvement into this DLC? Where does it land?
I thought you were going to ask me how I rate my brain there for a second. I mean, in
And
terms of
like,
involvement, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think pretty highly in terms of
mhm,
involvement, right? For this DLC, I've been involved from pretty early on, and I'm the design lead for the
mhm,
Relic team. And so, as you're probably aware, there's quite a few different groups working on Age 4 at the moment. You've seen FE, you've seen,
mhm.
there's World's Edge, there's Climax, there's other groups as well. But we're sort of the primary developer on the DLC portion specifically here.
And in your opinion, is this DLC what you wanted it to be?
Yes, in terms of the fact that there's something here for everybody. Like, we set out
Mhm.
to really create something that's going to appeal to the single players out there, the multiplayers out there, the competitive crowd, the casual crowd. I think this is a really worthy addition to the franchise, and there's a lot of new exciting gameplay. There's exciting new challenges, and I hope we see people who play the game already loving it, but also some people who might want to jump back in because there's something new there for them to experience.
One of my favorite things that you guys have changed for this civilization is the diverse sheep. There are 3 colors of sheep, and honestly, the first time I saw it, I went from excitement. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great!" But that's just because, you know, I'm a little bit of a color nerd. I love that. But what about you? What is your favorite quality of life change that we've made in this expansion?
As a player, you want to grab all the deer and take them home. Why does that need to be 10 clicks instead of 5, right? Or however many, right? Like, if we can make it less clicks and we can move you on to like focusing on the next thing, that's always for the best. And so we think about that a lot. And so with the new civs, for example, there's the worker elephants, right?
Mhm.
And you train them from the town center, they come out instantly, still have to pay for them.
Mhm.
But they skip the queue. And so obviously we did that because we didn't want there to be a huge gap between like, oh, I actually want a new drop off, but I have to cancel all my villagers to put this thing in the
Mhm.
queue. So then, and then to take that even further, we put on the villager build menu, we put the worker elephant. So
Yeah.
you can put the worker elephant like, oh, I want the worker elephant to go here. And then the worker elephant will automatically queue itself up at the TC or the nearest building that it can be trained from and walk over for you.
What was the hardest feature that you had to implement in this DLC? I mean, from a dev standpoint, what was
Sure.
difficult?
Something that was particularly fiddly was the Golden Horde's ability to convert relics into ovus.
Mhm.
There's just a lot going on there, like under the hood, that makes that like quite difficult to do. But yeah, we got there, and there were a lot of bugs, and we ironed them out, hopefully.
What feature in this DLC barely made the cut? And it can be like because people didn't believe in it as much, or there was just not more time. So what
Oh
just
yeah.
just made it?
The Kip check is an example of something.
Mhm.
It's like the new unit for the Golden Horde that replaces the Mangudai.
Mhm.
And that was really a last minute addition. And the thing that didn't nearly make it was the art. So we nearly didn't have the asset, and so we wouldn't have been able to add it into the game. And this was one of those things that came late because we kind of realized like we needed something more. It
Mhm.
needed to fill a gap. It needed to serve a specific purpose. And so we put out the request, we got it approved, we managed to get it in, but it was pretty close. And I think when we ship it, the correct icon is not going to be there, and then that's going to get updated because
Mhm.
the icon actually literally didn't make it in time.
Please find out who the person was who implemented the elephant's tails wagging when they run and start attacking. It made my heart melt when I saw those elephants charged in and just attack, and then the tails start wagging. It's so cute. So, as an enjoyer of those art parts, definitely 10 out of 10 implementation. It's though the quality of life changes is one thing, but getting the details just right like this, perfection.
Yeah, the
So,
elephants are super cute.
and they are so well designed. I would say balance-wise, we'll probably see a little bit of a Reddit thread or two about those, but yeah, we'll see what the
We'll
community
see.
holds for it. What map what biome combination do I need to try to just get that that's art feeling?
Yeah, man, I love the black sand biome. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so cool. You've got the really dark ground, you've got the golden cliffs, you've got the golden hour sunlight. It's like really just that's a great vibe. So much with the biomes do change, right? Like the dressing around the tops of the cliffs, the tint and coloring of the water and the shallows and all of that. So yeah, I think that one's really lush. But also the temperate fall. Like I love the red and the yellows and all the colors of the trees. That looks great. And I think actually Relic River looks really good with temperate fall.
If someone tries out this DLC for the first time, what civilization should they press play on first?
Probably Macedonian Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because I think it's the most accessible and the most easy to kind of like understand what's going on and get into it.
What civilization is going to be a beginner's nightmare?
I think Sengoku Daimyo falls into that category still the
Mm-hmm.
most. Just from like the economic standpoint, like there's a lot going on there with the build orders and things that's going to be a little different. But also like they have Kanabo Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
Kanabo Samurai is like a new unit type. It does something completely unique, and that is that it has bonus damage, which is a percentage of the enemy's max health.
Well, I mean, when you're thinking about, okay, this is going to be fun, this is realistic, kind of, what started as a joke, but it made it in. So,
Yeah, meteorite. I will say
expand.
meteorite. Yeah, I mean, we were in a meeting one afternoon, and one of the designers, Dylan, he's like, "Oh, what if like a meteorite crashed down? Like that would be crazy." We're like, "Yeah, it would, but it would actually be really cool." So like we looked into it and we're like, "Okay, well, is there any historical basis for? I mean, obviously
Mm.
meteorites have always crashed into Earth, like as far back as we know." Um, but was there any historical basis for like people in the Middle Ages interacting with meteorites? And it turns out that throughout history, there has been.
What unit is going to get nerfed first? Not because of what you guys are already doing, but because you think this is something people are going to complain about enough.
Maybe the healer elephant potentially. I mean, it kind of depends how that goes.
Yeah.
It's quite strong, and it's definitely one of those things where because it has an aura that gains
Mm-hmm.
damage with more infantry around it, kind of like having the right number of elephants and infantry and kind of like getting the most out of that. It can be pretty good.
I tested it. Oh, oh, my dear man, will I complain on stream about this if I face it? It is something. It is so crazy. I love it. I absolutely love the healer elephant spam. I like that they can't capture sacred sites in feudal. It's a very
Mhm.
good change from Delhi. But at the same time, the fact that there's an elephant out there healing everything, we are gonna get herbal medicine complaints like we got from Delhi back in the day. This is going to be an absolute destruction, and I can't wait to see it. I think with the civs that are deemed variety civilizations, they're not like their original civs, and I think this is also why some people get so upset when they're like, "Oh, we have variants. We don't have real civ. These are real civilizations. They are nothing like their OG ones. Maybe there's a little bit of a building inspiration, but aside from that, it just feels like everything is so unique." The thing is, some people always ask, like, but when do we use the reality of the history versus what is fun? So, how do you decide between we're going to go with the more realistic version of this versus we're going to go with the fun version of this? Like worker
I mean,
elephants. Who knows?
totally, right? I mean, this is actually something which is present in every age game.
Hmm.
And this is, it's consistent kind of across the franchise. It's this idea that history is where we start, and we're always looking at history, and we certainly want to be respectful to the history as
Hmm.
well, and make sure that things are represented in a way that's fair. But at the same time, we're also making a video game, and
Hmm.
there's also like balance concerns, and there's also all these other things, right? And so there is a bit of tension there about how do we make sure that we're being historically influenced and we're trying to tell like interesting stories? And then also, how do we create something that fits within the actual game that we have? And so, yeah, I mean, there's not really like a playbook for that. It's a lot of thought and back and forth that goes into it. But definitely Age as a whole, like there's always this idea, okay, what's something that's like really interesting or cool about this Civ's history? And it might not have been as like um, as big as it ends up being in the Civ in real life. But it kind of gets taken there because it's interesting or it's cool or it's like worth shining a light on that. Like if you think of Malians, for example, Musafadi warriors and the Dahomey Amazons and the history around these sort of like this core of females that would like fight in Mali. Sort of in history, they were quite a small force, but they are really like quite center stage in the Civ, and that's like just a cool part of history that's represented there. And I think that's true of every Civ. There's always some piece of the history that's really represented and makes for cool gameplay at the same time.
What is one thing you wish players understood about how the dev work really happens?
Yeah, wow. Where to start? I think like one thing that I think players sometimes may not realize is that we as the dev team, like we love RTS games and we love Age of Empires. Like there are people on our team who are like ex-StarCraft pros or have worked on RTS games for over 25 years. We have a huge love for the genre, and obviously a huge amount of love for like our baby, Age of Empires 4, right? And so, when we see a lot of stuff in the community about like, oh, why have the devs not done this or why have the devs not done that? Usually it's not the first time we're hearing that because a lot of those things come internally first before they're even said out loud. And so I think like that's kind of one of the things which to me is like so important about working on Age. It's like all of the devs really care and we really want to make the best game we can. And that, that there's a huge list of things that we would love to do and that we would love to eventually get to. And for us, it's like a matter of time and wanting to and being able to do all of that stuff. It's always a balance. And so, yeah, like we're excited about what we can get done with the DLC. And we're excited about what we can hopefully continue to do in the months afterwards as well.
I can't believe you guys managed to design the Crucible along with 4 very unique civilizations. That to me is absolutely insane. This makes the DLC one of the biggest releases yet. I know people were saying, oh, we only got 4 variants. No, we did not. We got a lot more than that. So, what was your goal with the Crucible? Just for everyone to enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but definitely to go back to the idea that there's something there for everybody of every skill level. We definitely wanted that to be a challenge, whether you're brand new or whether you're extremely talented at the game. But certainly, like the idea that this mode has so much built into it for replayability. The fact that you can play as every Civ, the fact that every time you load into a mission, the side objectives are randomized, like all the little like points of interest, all the little like camps and things around the map are different every time. Like the pickups that you get, the resource pickups are different. The enemy waves are different every time. The boons you get are different every time. And that all kind of comes together and gives you this really fun experience where each time you play, you get something a little different. There's like intentionally designed synergies and things in the boons, but it's something which kind of like no two games are the same. And then, of course, like there's multiple missions, and so they all kind of have their own unique thing. And then, in addition to that, above all of it, there's the perk point system, which allows you to gain more power over time as you play. And for a lot of players, that's going to be really interesting because it's going to mean that, I started on maybe playing intermediate, and I was able to get silver. But then I was able to, over time, beat my time. I was able to kind of like get more confident in the game, get better, and then now I'm actually playing on hard, and there's like this real sense of like forward movement and forward progression within the whole thing.
A lot of people, when they're playing strategy games, they want to survive on being strategic. And I think with the Crucible, yes, you have a little bit of RNG with all the perks that you can get and whatever spawns, whatever it is to choose from. But there's also an element of like, okay, this decision led to that, and I got here because of this. And like you said, there's always an improvement in, you're always going to feel like you're growing as you understand your decisions a little bit more. I think for a lot of us, 1v1s are already complicated, but when I get to these, I can actually take part and try to take on a big name such as MSN, for example. Is there ever going to be a co-op for the Crucible, or is it designed to just be single player?
We'll have to see.
Oh, I love that answer. Thank you.
Tughlaq Dynasty, variant of the Delhi, they keep their sort of technology theme from the Delhi, but rather than all the text being for free and taking a really long time, we took out the scholar system, which is quite difficult for players to use, and it's replaced by this idea that your technologies are essentially close to instant with a 5-second time, and the technologies cost more as a result. Obviously, elephants are a big part of the Tughlaq Dynasty, from the worker elephants to the raider elephants to the ballista elephant and even the healer elephant we talked about. The Civ has a lot of elephant action, and the Tughlaq fort is such a key building for this Civ. The governor system is really an interesting one because it lets you build wide and get lots of bonuses, or you can build tall and get less bonuses but get stronger bonuses instead. So there's a lot of strategic thinking around the governors.
When I tried them out, I was really surprised at how you can really focus about, like you said, like wide or tall. And I'm going with wide for now. For now, I feel like the wide feels like there's just so many unique bonuses that you can actually capitalize on. And the more things you throw at your opponent, the harder they are it's gonna be for them to react to it. So with the 5-second upgrades, though, and I think this is something that from the start, I was a little bit worried about because I went back in, checked university upgrades as well, and saw that they are also 5 seconds. Do you feel like there's some really, really strong castle and imperial timings because of this that might get out of hand?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about get out of hand. We'll have to wait and see, but definitely, right? Like the idea that you could reach the Imperial Age and then get like the elite upgrade or a university tech within 5 seconds is really potent. The techs obviously cost more to offset that potency, and they used to be like a lot more expensive. Like at one point, like we started out and they were like twice as expensive, and then they were 60% more, and then they were 40% more, and now they're about 20% more. So kind of in testing, we realized that yes, there's a lot of potency, but the cost scaling had to get pulled back and back and back for it to actually feel like it was in the right place. And maybe that's something that still gets tweaked a little more, but definitely has a lot of potential to catch people by surprise.
So tell me a little bit about this civilization's playstyle options that we might have.
Yeah, I mean, the Tughlaq have a lot of options available just because of the governor system, right? Like you could be really greedy, and you could do the governor of Bakar and sort of get some food income going, and then you could go Multan and go to TC and do a big boom. And so sort of like in a team game scenario, I think they could be quite potent, and something that, you know, like some civs, you really don't want to let them get fully boomed and like get everything running, because obviously the late game elephant situation, it's gonna be a situation. you know, you don't want to let them get to that point. So that's definitely gonna be one option. I'm curious to see if people will do like a fast imp with them, like I'm hoping people will maybe find a fast imp strat with this civ. It's not going to be viable everywhere, of course, but certainly the idea that the Imperial Age landmark that gives you a tier 4 governor is like a really interesting power spike that you could use. But they even have a lot of feudal options with the Raider Elephant. If you go Tower of Victory, for instance, you could really go heavy into the elephants early. And then maybe more of like a mid-game type thing would be kind of like maybe if you go House of Learning into healer elephants, there's like an interesting like infantry angle there. If you go House of it's House of Learning, right? Like you can get the upgrades for your men at arms and your spearmen and have like a really interesting like infantry and healer elephant death ball. All right, Sengoku Daimyo, Japanese variant. It's all about the Sengoku Jidai period, the warring clans, and a big part of this civ is the daimyo estates that you build. It kind of lets you decide where you want to focus your attention or where you want to focus on upgrades with your sort of 3 core class of units, whether that's your ranged infantry or ranged units, your melee infantry or your cavalry. You're kind of picking and choosing between those clans. They are really an interesting civ from the eco side. They've got these like yatai, which you send out. They really change up the idea of like, I want to kill the deer and take the deer, or I want to kill the boar and take the boar, to I want to protect the deer and I want to protect the boar because I'm going to get lots of bonus resources from that, and bring those food carts back and have a really cool festival around the Matsuri, which is like a really key eco building for the civ, which you probably want to build farms around and build your economy around. And then, from the landmark side of it, all of the landmarks are different. They're all offering something new, and they're a really fun sort of dynamic civ that has a lot of options as well to take to the battlefield.
Okay. And when I look at this, I know Sengoku, but we always think about the base civilization as well, comparing to Japan. Your barracks is full price. It's not something that you can just go and rush now. But the fact that you still kept the samurai and the spearmen available in Dark Age was quite interesting to me, because this is not something you get with English versus House of Lancaster, right? So why did you guys stay with that core strategy in Dark Age?
I think Civs should have options in the Dark Age. I mean, obviously with the Yatai, they're able to be out on the field early, and actually there may be a lot of counterplay to that potentially, and having options to respond in counter the counterplay is kind of important. But also, I think Sengoku Daimyo is a little bit more of an emphasis on infantry as a whole, like as a civ. I mean, of course, there's the Daimyo estates, which let you go into the 3 different sort of like unit categories, but infantry is certainly more of like at the forefront, whereas I think like Japanese, there's a lot more like fast castle into mounted samurai, for instance.
Exactly. So there's no deflective armor for these guys either.
Not out the gate, no, but you can get deflective armor, and this is actually kind of cool, right? Because it's part of your decision making. Instead of just getting deflective armor on the samurai, now you get deflective armor on any units that you choose, but you have to make that decision. So if you get the 3 daimyo estates for any of the 1 clans, then you get deflective armor for that entire class of units. So you can have Yumi with deflective armor, or you could have Yari cavalry and mounted samurai with deflective armor, or you can have spearmen and samurai, Naginata samurai, or Kanabo with deflective armor, but only ever on 1 class in the game. And it's kind of like up to you to decide which one you want to get it.
That's interesting. So I feel like with the civilization, we would usually say, oh, this civilization favors someone who's aggressive, someone who likes to drag the game out. But this doesn't seem to be the case. This feels like a civilization that you can do a little bit of everything on, depending on how you feel. So tell me about these playstyles. What are we expecting to see?
I think the way that the Sengoku Daimyo work, you're probably going to see like quite a lot. Again, it's a little bit map dependent, but if it was like an open map, you're probably expecting to see a lot more feudal action, because as an opponent of the Sengoku Daimyo, you probably want to try and deny the yatai. And so this kind of encourages, I think, more feudal like gameplay
Mm.
with the Civ. But at the same time, as the game progresses, you really are making some really important decisions around the daimyo estates, right? Getting a daimyo estate early, actually training the daimyo and being able to put that in your army is really important because it gives an attack speed buff to all units. So that's going to be relevant throughout the game. But yeah, I think like sort of early, mid game, they're going to be very strong and they have a lot of potential. Maybe they fall off a little bit in those super late game scenarios. Macedonian Dynasty, we talked a bit about how they're sort of like more approachable. They're a little easier to play than Byzantines. Well, they're a lot easier to play than Byzantines, that's for sure, which is definitely intentional. They really like zoom in on the Varangians. And for the Byzantines, as a Civ, they have so much going on. Like they have the mercenaries, they've got so much complexity, and they have the Varangian Guard, which is like a really big part of Byzantine history. And so we wanted to kind of zoom in on that. And that's kind of what the Macedonian dynasty is all about. They have a replacement for their spearman, a replacement for their archer, and a replacement for the cataphract. And they are all the three Varangian units, the Atgemater, the Bodgmater, and the Radari. That's the fun little D symbol in the name. And yeah, they kind of focus around this Varangian play and the fact that, yeah, they have the Varangians at the core of their army. But they also still have the fifth resource, right? Just like the Byzantines that have olive oil, but they have silver, which is a much more sort of thematic resource to the Varangians. And how they gather that silver is different, and how they use that silver is different. They have a Varangian arsenal, which is a unique building, which combines the university and the blacksmith together and creates a whole new set of upgrades, which are unique to the Civ. And you spend silver, your fifth resource, specifically on those.
Okay. And do you feel like then this upgrades you get from the silver, do they outperform the usual upgrades? Because they can be upgraded 6 times, right?
Yeah, they do. I mean, with enough time and with enough silver, eventually, like the ultra late game, yes, they can have 6 attack upgrades, 6 defense upgrades, and health buffs as well, because the defense upgrades give you health and armor at the same time. So there's a lot of potency there, but there's also a lot more upgrades in there as well, because instead of upgrading ranged armor for everything, you're actually upgrading for your unit class. So your infantry upgrades are separate from your ranged upgrades, which are separate from your cavalry upgrades. And the cost of these double every time. So they get extremely expensive. And so I think, you know, if you're realistically trying to get them all, you're talking like an hour plus game, right? Like it's really long.
Okay. But if we get to that point, they are going to be difficult to handle. Especially, I would say, in lower leagues where there's not a lot of action happening and not a lot of punishing happening. So,
Yeah.
that sounds like
But at the same
fun.
time, I mean, every Civ kind of has this idea of a power budget.
Yeah.
And so while, yes, this is very strong and that's big, there are other ways like for Civs to perform in equal measure depending on the Civ. It depends on which Civ we're talking about here, but they don't have as many unique techs that buff them in other ways or mechanics that buff them in other ways.
With this civilization as well, you said it is the easiest one out of the bunch to try. Now, there are some complicated mechanics. I think a lot of civilizations in AoE have that thing of it's easy to play, but it's difficult to master. Do you feel like there's that component to this one as well?
I think that's true of every Civ. I think
Yeah.
even like the English, there's still that element to it, right? In terms of your play as an individual, there's always more to mastery in Age 4. And so, yeah, I think they're probably a little more approachable, but certainly on the mastery side of it, there's always a lot there, yeah.
Okay. And tell me about the playstyles. What are we going to be seeing from the people?
Well, Macedonian Dynasty have, again, quite a few options, but I'm going to be curious to see people like rushing and massing the Whamenqt, which is the archer replacement. They have a special ability which gives them, while active, a bonus damage against armor, like armor penetration.
Mm.
So, like a mass of those in Feudal could be quite interesting to see. I'm also interested to see like how players pick between the Imperial Age landmarks later on. I think, for example, like going Palatine School, you can train Cataphract from there by spending silver. And so there's
Mm.
an interesting idea of like, well, what if I didn't spend as much silver in the arsenal and I actually like pump out a bunch of Cataphracts like at the start of Imperial Age? Like that could be kind of interesting, right? Yeah, there's kind of like different power spikes at different stages of
Mm.
the game. But this is a civ which, yeah, like it's going to be interesting to see like a death ball of Varangian units and how that works out.
Gosh, I'm excited to feel that in my base. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
All right. Then let's go to the Mongol variant. Now, I hate the Mongols. Let's just get this out of the way. I
Okay.
hate the Mongols. The Golden Horde, in this case, though, I feel like the essence of Mongols is there, so I'm still going to struggle with them, but I absolutely love the fact they have walls. The walls, thank you. Thank you for implementing those. But what was really interesting to me is also the farms that they have, where you get to put 4 villages working on one farm. And the mechanic of that is so unique in a way because, of course, these villages, they basically get inside, but you're still able to harass them. You can still use them normally. So that interaction, to me, from the dev's perspective, I thought that was really, really well coded, and the response is so, so good. But at the same time, it's just something I think Mongols needed. I know we're
Mhm.
talking about the Golden Horde, but I love it. I love the concepts of this. I love the fact that the Khan also gets to be healed up. Instead of having the Khan hunters, you have different Khan units as well. So before I go into like a 6-hour rampage about how awesome this civilization is, give me your overview. Let's see what you take on this.
Yeah, did we potentially leave the best till last? I'm starting to think maybe we did from your reaction. Yeah, the Golden Horde. I mean, as you said, it's a Mongol variant, but we certainly wanted to make this like a Mongols for people that probably struggle with Mongols a little bit,
Yeah.
which sounds like we've done from what you're saying there. Absolutely. So the Golden Horde is kind of like this period of time where you're a little more settled. It's more like later on, and there's
Mm.
this westward expansion into Eastern Europe, and this is kind of like where you see Batu Khan in there and the bodyguard and kind of like what that represents in the
Mhm.
history. But yeah, the Golden Horde is kind of intended as the civ, which has a little bit more defensive capabilities. They have the fortified outposts, which is also their influence system, where you can build things around those, and then you kind of change what your influence does from the Golden Tent, which is like a real focal point of the civ, because the
Mm.
Golden Tent, it's not just where Batu Khan lives, it's also where you do your age upgrades. It's where you change your edicts, which
Mm.
your edicts are essentially what determines what your influence bonus is. It's where you train units. It's where you get some upgrades. It's such like a focal point. And so while like Mongols are so sort of like in theory about like relocating and
Mm.
raiding, the Mongol horde is more about being a little more stationary and building up a bit more of like a death ball, and like we're kind of overwhelm you. Of course, the reason that is because all of their units train in batches, so you don't get one unit at a time. You get 2 or 3, or in some cases 4 if you have the Karash edict on. You'll
Mm.
get 3 units and a Karash just from one production item. And so this is one of those cases where like we understood like Mongols are kind of hard to play for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and batch production was kind of an interesting way to kind of reduce the amount of like overhead you have to managing your production queues and things, while also giving them that real identity of like a horde, of like we're going to just mass up loads of units and run at you, and the quality of those units might not be as good, but there's a lot of them. That's kind of the idea.
But what was really interesting to me when I tried them out is I didn't realize they're double producing. I was like, why are my villages this expensive? Why can't I age up? And then all of a sudden noticing there's 2 at a time? What's happening? And then all of a sudden seeing it from my military buildings. And I'm like, wow, we got there. We have this now, double production. And it doesn't have that same timer as the Uwu, of course, because the Uwu for the Mongols, once the Uwu isn't there, the double production is also kind of cooked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, when I look at this and getting the whole pit mine mechanics, because now, for those of you watching, they get pit mines, but for the Golden Horde, which just means it's going to be stone mines that keep going infinitely. And now I saw a few of them get left on 1 stone. Does this mean that when it gets destroyed, it's still alive and you can rebuild it?
That's right, you can. I think
Okay.
the remaining on 1 stone is maybe a bug, actually.
Mm.
If you rebuild it, it would probably say 0 stone. But yes, you can essentially treat them as pit mines. If they're destroyed, they can be rebuilt over where a stone mine used to be if it's fully depleted.
Even if it's fully depleted, so not like the Malians.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Mechanic we haven't tested out. Nice. So, what type of playstyle are we expecting to see from the Golden Horde?
I think you could see a lot of aggression is probably where you're going to start with this. The fact that once you reach the feudal age, you can immediately spend some of that stone on
Mhm.
the Batu Khan unit, the Khan for the Civ, or even the Torgud, which are its bodyguard. I think you might see some like roaming bands of cavalry early on,
Mhm.
absolutely. But then sort of as the game progresses, I think you can probably expect to see a lot of like just big masses of like a real mix in there of like Karash, which are like buffing the armor, which are
Mm.
cheap chaff infantry, mixed in with like literally anything. Like they really have a lot of options there. But again, like similar to the other civs, you do have to pick and choose. You have to really pick and sort of plan your stone expenditure carefully, because you can dump a lot of stone into units, but there's also key techs which take stone as well.
Mhm.
And so as the Golden Horde, like you will probably care about map control. You will probably care about making sure you have those overs down and you have that stone income coming, because your stockyard upgrades cost stone, your unique upgrades all cost stone, and there are some really fun unique upgrades in there. I think they'll probably be a bit more niche, like the Beachhead Ram. I'm interested to see how people will use Glorious Charge. It's quite an interesting upgrade. It unlocks a new ability, which is available on your fortified outpost.
Mhm.
And when you activate it, it reveals everything around it to everybody. And it's like, we are going to come at you and you better be ready. You put your units around it. There's a big charge up time. You can hear the war drums going and there's like chanting and stuff. And then the fireworks come out and then you go. You charge across the map. You get a move speed bonus and damage reduction. It's just kind of cool. It's a bit like, throwing up a Wololo and everyone's like, oh my God, what's going on over there? But it's the Glorious Charge and it's the Golden Horde.
I have one more question about the Civ, and that's
Sure.
basically getting to the point of how did you decide, okay, this is not going to be a Mangudai, this is not a horse archer. So, what is it?
It's a Kipchak. Kipchak is it's kind of like taking from the Turkic influence of
Mm.
the Golden Horde. And it's one of those cases where it's a nod to history, but like obviously the gameplay is its own thing, kind of how we
Mhm.
talked about earlier, right? About the reality versus the gameplay.
Mhm.
But it's essentially we wanted to replace the Magadai because the Magadai is such a key piece of the Mongols' identity.
Yeah.
And this is the Golden Horde. Like they're not the Mongols in Age 4. They're a different civ, and they should have something different in its place. And so the Kipchak has its own unique mechanics. It essentially does like a bleed damage on hit.
Mhm.
It can't fire on the move, so it's not going to be like a crazy Mangadai run by where it's going to kill all your vills. but it's going to be used a little differently, a little bit more deliberately. And it also has a really cool, unique upgrade, which is the triple shot, which
Sure.
again, it's cost stone, but it's got a really fun synergy with the bleed damage because it can apply then 3 times the bleed because it can fire 3 times the arrows. And to be honest, it's also a little bit of a callback to Age 2 because the Kumans in Age 2 have a unique unit called the Kipchak, and it kind of like famously fires the 3 arrows, which is something we, it's nice to sometimes have that little callback to some of the other games as well.
I have one last thing, and that is, do you have any other message you want to leave with the Age of Empires community?
Good question. There's so much I would say, but I can't say it all. No, just thank you for sticking with us and continuing to play the game. We love it. It's always a highlight of our week and our day when we see people enjoying it and loving it as much as we do. So, yeah, thanks for continuing to play, and we hope to see you setting high scores in the Crucible and trying out the new civs on the ladder. And we can't wait to see what comes out of that and where we go from here.
Now, can you do your best Wololo into the microphone, and then you are free.
Oh, can I do my best while I'm set up for this? There we go. Wololo!